Virtus.pro are the only elite top-level team in Counter-Strike Global Offensive who've had the same five-man core lineup for the entirety of the year 2014. And they've repeatedly been in situations where they were a top four team and they were in contention to potentially win the title. They've had maybe 7-8 events where they really were in position where they might have won. They looked good. They had key wins. Losses prevented them. But the problem is in these 7-8 times, they only won two events. Now, winning two events is a big deal. There's not many teams do win two events. But you look at the absolute best teams in the world, the World Championship level teams, and these are the ones, the NIPs, who are winning events. Obviously, Fnatic recently, LELC's won a big tournament now. Admittedly, not that many tournaments themselves. They've won a couple of events. All in all, Virtus.pro, they're certainly good enough to be a world-class team, but they lack something to be the champion team, to be the team who not just wins an event, but is a champion in as much as he defends the title. He goes on a streak of wins. He wins against this opponent regularly. You know he's going to beat that one. In the biggest match against the biggest opponent who's playing the hottest Counter-Strike, he still finds a way to win, finds a way to beat them. He said Virtus.pro hasn't been that team. They've had their days and they've been incredible. They've had amazing, either one series that's amazing, or they've sometimes had that miraculous tournament where they go to the final, they win. It's happened twice. It happened at EMS Katowice, happened at Gfinity G3 in August. Their problem is they lack something to take them to that level of the polished, complete nature that a champion has when they're in that form. And so let's think about the team and let's think about what some of their problems could be. If we just go member by member initially, I like to look at the individuals first. You look at Virtus.pro, the player you associate with them, he's not just because of his character, his personality, which has come out recently, but it's just his play. It's Pasha. Pasha very much represents this sort of player. When Pasha was on his game and when he was doing it, he could compete with anyone. He could have as much game impact as nearly every other player in the game. Incredible kills, locking down positions, running over sites. He embodied what Virtus.pro could be great about, but also the problems, because Pasha had some consistency, just like this team's had some consistency, but it's faded recently. He's had problems in the last 6 months, the last 3 months. He hasn't been quite that player. He hasn't been the star, and yet that's the problem. One of the core principles of Virtus.pro is that their team is essentially built around Pasha. Now, there's a hidden caveat that people don't really understand about that, which is that part of the reason it's built around Pasha, it's not just because he's one of the best players in the team and can have great impact. It's because, really, that's the only way he can have that kind of impact. Actually, he's the sort of player where if you put him in a role and you told him, this is your job this round, Pasha, and you're going to do that 4 rounds out of a half, and you know what, next round I want you to do this, he's not that sort of player at all. It's the opposite way around. He gets to decide almost impulsively, and he has to do the things that he feels comfortable in that moment. And when he's on his game and you let him do these things, he can have a great impact. The problem is when he's not on his game, he's not in that sense, and you're giving all this freedom, and you're basing things around him, you're having other people take up the slack or sacrifice something here or do something there. That's when you run into problems, because then when he's not providing the big frag, when he's not giving the star role that you need from him, either other people need to go crazy, which is hard to do, or you're going to lose games. You're not going to be able to get that consistency. You're not going to be able to grind out a win. You're not going to be able to come back. You're going to give up a lead. These are the problems Virtus.pro's had. So you start with the star, you go down. The two most skilled players after Pasha, I'd argue at times as good as him or better, byali and Snax. To me, byali overall is the most skilled player in the team. I think he should be the star. But his problem is, his aim is what is incredibly erratic. There can be rounds where byali has as good aim as anyone in all of Counter-Strike. Incredible one-bullet precision, or a sick spray of 3 or 5 bullets that insta headshots 1 or 2 people. It looks incredible, but he doesn't have anywhere close to the consistency of the elite players in this game, and it holds him back a bit. He's just a very good player. He's not quite at that elite level. The Kenny S, the JW Crims previously, these sorts of players, he's not quite at that level. Something holds him back, and it's his consistency. And so he doesn't always have to be the star. If Pasha's doing great and he can just sit back and be there. That's the thing with byali and Snax. What made them Virtus.pro at their best really good was that byali and Snax neither had to be the star. They could sort of take turns. They were sort of half stars each. And Snax also has really good skills, but he seems like a guy where he plays so much intuitively off his feeling that likewise, when it's on, he can tear you apart. He gets that. He's like the guy in basketball who hits that clutch dagger shot where the game's almost out of range and you're fighting your way back in, and when he hits that shot, it just breaks your back, and you just can't get back in. If that's going to go against us as well, and it breaks you as well as the momentum and the force and the weight of the game already bearing down on you, that shot's like, that was the last. I was already clinging on by the last fingernails there. That's what Snacks can be. But likewise, that intuitive sense that tells him, that impulsiveness of when to do that genius move and just knowing where the opponent will be, when that's not on, he looks pretty lost. He becomes quite an average player. He'll make misplays where he gets caught out, or he's too passive here and didn't know the right timing of when to go. When that's off, he's not a player who has the fundamentals to be the genius. He's not the get-right in that sense, who can just also fall back on an overall level of game where players that get right in shocks in general won't ever be bad because they have a level they can fall back to that can always be solid at least. Snacks isn't quite that fundamentally sound. Then you go to the two veterans, Neo and Taz. The biggest problem with Neo and Taz is they understand that principle of how Pasha works in the team, and that these young stars need things comfortable for them, and that they're kind of, I won't say, okay, they're a little bit temperamental, Bialy and Snacks, and Pasha especially so. So they need things kind of set up so that they're comfortable and they're getting the chance to do the things they want to do and having a lot of freedom and space to explore their game. But to do that, the foundation of the team, the core, what things are built up of, has to be Neo and Taz. And so they have to give up aspects of their game. They have to sacrifice here. They have problems fragging sometimes, especially Taz, but admittedly you can see that they're focused more on the team concept and getting the other players in position to be stars and have success. So their problem here is they can actually do their job, and if the others aren't able to do their job, the star role or the fragging role, or having this aspect and this freedom and getting a chance to just change what you want to do, if those aren't working, then the fundamentals alone of those two and the core principle and what the game's built up of won't win you the game. And then sometimes if they're a bad game on top of that because they're getting difficult roles or not comfortable for what they'd want as their normal position when they used to be stars in the past, then actually it's going to look disastrous, and that's going to be some of the problems the team has. And also, here's the problem as well. If you wanted to replace a player in this team, almost no one would replace Pasha or Bialy or Snacks, so it would be Neo or Taz. Well, if you replace one of these, like I said, their role of what they're doing within the team, first of all, where are you going to get your in-game leader, since they've been the two that it seems like it swaps the most between? Secondly, then how's this team concept going to be? So if you put in a fragger there, a star fragger, well, fragging wasn't necessarily our problem before. It was our problem in as much as some of our stars or half stars couldn't sometimes provide it, so we did need more fragging, but we didn't need more fragging at the expense of what's building the team, what the core concept is, what the fundamental level that we put everything else on top of to succeed. That's where we're getting a problem there. We're giving up too much potentially to get back fragging. So in a weird way, you might even have to give up one of the star level players to get the fragger there and get a more consistent aspect. It's a different way to think of the game. Speaking of the in-game leader aspect, that's been one of the biggest problems with Virtus.pro. They've swapped, it feels like almost everyone in the team now has been the in-game leader. It feels like they swap every 3 events or so. And I've even talked to them, and it sounds like, internally, without revealing any secrets, it sounds like their own frustrations within the team over when events start to go badly. Like they have a good event, and then they've got a couple that are bad. That's part of why they swap, because they're not sure what's wrong, and they don't know what to do to change it, and they try things and they don't work. So a way to feel like you're getting a fresh chance or you're going to mix things up is change the in-game leader. And that's what they do. Now, I would argue part of the reason why they have to keep changing in-game leader, and part of the reason why people are so erratic, etc., and what the effect it has on the team, is that really they never were that good tactically. They have set tactics that fit their style when they're at their best. But that's the thing about Virtus.pro. The reason why they have Virtus Plow mode is the core strength of Virtus.pro is just amazing, natural, intuitive chemistry. This is just a 5-man lineup that there's something special about it. It plays together so well. People, when they're on their game, are just in. It seems like the perfect role for them, the perfect spot on this map, the perfect follow-up, and this guy goes in this order, and then the way. That's why they just not only get into a site, break it up, and they run over you, and then on CT side, you run into a brick wall over and over, and you just get killed here, and you get killed there, and then they push up here, and they pull back here, and they retake, and it feels like you can't do anything. But that's when they're at their peak. When they fall apart a bit, suddenly it's, this is breaking up a bit, and the plow bit is gone. Because the chemistry, that's what they rely on so heavily. And that's what makes them erratic, because that chemistry can't be there every single game, unfortunately. And they don't have much to fall back on once it's gone. When people are in the wrong spot and they're feeling wrong, and this guy's giving up this, but he's not getting something from the guy who's giving the chance to shine, now you're getting problems. So think about this team. Yeah, what's crazy is they multiple times over the year, they've been good enough to win an event. They could have won an event, yet they've only won 2 events. On average, they only win an event every 4 or 5 that they play, they win an event. If you look at the expanse of the year. And for a team that could be the best in the world, or that doesn't work. They had stretches. They had a stretch of 3 straight tournaments where they were top 4, they only won 1. They had a stretch of 4 straight tournaments. The last 4 they've played in now, they won none of those. Then you go further back, They won the Gfinity, but then they bombed 58th at the major afterwards. One of the other reasons, one of the things that holds this team back right now is that, okay, now they've gotten some consistency, the best consistency they've had all year, 4 straight tournaments where they've managed to finish top 4. Now, what holds them back from winning? This is a bad map era for them. One of the things that was unique about when they won EM Katowice was that in that particular era, their strongest maps, Mirage, they were amazing at, and then Inferno, they were strong at as well. At the time, they were playing against teams where there was some leeway on that. They were beating LGB, where they could edge these teams on those maps every time. If they played someone like Titan didn't win any part of their Mirage. If they played against NIP, again, they could smash them on Mirage. Then NIP had to start banning Mirage against them to get a chance to win, as they did later. Inferno, that was quite up in the air when the two teams would play it. It was a decent map era for them in terms of what the pool was like and what teams were picking and banning. In this particular era, their biggest problem is their 3 best maps are Mirage, Inferno, Cash. Now, Mirage and Inferno, this is a big problem. Fnatic, the best team in the world, who's won 4 out of the last 5 events, is the best team in the world on Inferno. So that's over already. You're not going to win on Inferno against Fnatic. Now, Mirage is, some people argue it's their Fnatic's best map. So let's say their second best map. It's going to still be very hard to beat Mirage on Fnatic on Mirage. Hellraisers had that amazing game in the group stage of DreamHack Winter, and yet they barely won 16-14 over Fnatic. That's how good they are on that map. So your 2 best maps, the best team in the era, is beating your ass on. Then you've got LDLC's the second best team on Inferno. Very, very strong team there. Now you go to your 3rd map, Cash. Now, they've lost twice to Complexity in 2 of those lands I was talking about, those top 4s that they had. Face It and then ESWC, I think it was. Lost twice on Cash there. Then one of their 3rd maps is slipping a bit. When your map pool is this off, and the better teams that you need to beat to get to the top of the tournament are the ones who are stronger on those maps, that's alone is going to make it very difficult. Then add in your chemistry issues, and you can see why they aren't able to close events out and get to finals and win them anymore. If you think about those maps and how they very, very recently have affected Virtus.pro, ESEA, they got to the final, they beat Fnatic in the upper bracket final, best of 3, and now they had to lose 2 best of 3s if they were going to lose the title. It seemed like they were going to win another event. If they were about on par, they had 4 events in after the last win, well, about 6 until the last win. That's about time for Virtus.pro to win an event. They had an awesome event, everything's going great, and what happens to them? Okay, they played in the upper bracket to get there. They played Cash and Mirage in that order. They won Cash, and this was the same map that Fnatic had actually lost to Titan in the round before, in that close best of 3. On Mirage, they won on 16-14, incredibly narrowly. So everything just about went right. You just managed to even edge them on Mirage. Again, hard to beat Fnatic on that map. You get to the final. First best of 3, same 2 maps again, Cash, Mirage. Fnatic convincingly wins 16-10 both times. Easy. Virtus.pros have no dominance on these maps. They can't guarantee they're going to win on these maps. Next 2 maps weren't either else because of the way the map pool works in ESEA. Fnatic won those. It was closer, but they won overall, and Fnatic went 4 maps in a row without an answer from Virtus.pro and won the tournament. Snatched it right back out of their hands, and it felt, from how dominant the final was, like actually, suddenly it felt like Virtus.pro would never even had a chance to win the game. I mean, they needed to win on Cash Mirage. The first set was their chance to win this whole tournament. That's the maps they'd even beaten Fnatic on before. Another good example of Virtus.pro's problems with this map pool was the semi-final at DreamHack Winter. That is a series that Virtus.pro were the favourites for. They should or could have won this. They could have gone to the final. They'd have been facing LDLC there, a team who hadn't won a big event. This was a great chance to win another major title. But what happened to them was this semi-final, it all fell apart. On paper, they were already the favourite, but then they got the almost best possible map pool they could go for, because Nuke was going to be Nip's pick, Cash was theirs, and the decider was Inferno. Randomly, they got Inferno. So Inferno and Cash are 2 of their 3 best maps. They got 2 of their 3 best maps. Thanks to the random aspect, they got that. And then the first map is Nuke, a map that they've actually had some decent results on. So the first map, Nuke, yeah, they had this super close game that they almost won. You're thinking, if they're going to almost win that, the next 2, it's going to be theirs. They're going to make it. Second map, they smash Cash. Great. Everything went to plan. Now you come into Inferno, a map that's been a home map of yours, the map that you beat the other Nip on in the second map at EMS Katowice. It seems like the story's set for you to win. They get dominated on Inferno. They do terribly on T-side. They don't get anything going. They've got nothing to fall back on when they have no good aggression, no solid attacks, no coordinated approach.
their Inferno, which should be one of their second or best map, it just falls apart completely, and you can see this hasn't been the good era for them on their strong maps. Cash is still there, but their strong maps, that's where they've been struggling. So bad map pool for them. They can be good on Dust 2, but some of these teams, I mean, I'd say LDLC pretty fucking baller on Dust 2, and Fnatic can be quite good, and it's going to be hard there again. What are the solutions they can have? I've got two I've thought of. Okay, one is they need to go hard at Nuke. Fnatic do not play Nuke, and LDLC in general haven't played Nuke, although I think they've played it a bit recently. They started to play it or something. They need to go super hard at Nuke. They've always had it in their mind, Virtus.pro, that Nuke was bad for them, but actually they've shown a tendency to be pretty solid on it. They almost beat Nip in that great game where they were up like 15-7, and then admittedly they lost, and in overtime they were doing great, and actually they had awesome T-side moments in that game. CT side was very strong. They've shown that they can be a good team on Nuke. Crucially, go back further to the event they won, Gfinity. In the final, they beat Titan on Nuke, and Titan was a sick team on Nuke. So practice Nuke heavily, so at least you've got something else to play with in terms of the pick bans and the strategy of forcing Fnatic. And all they say they have to ban Nuke, and now suddenly you get to pick something good. That's at least a way you can get into the game, because you want to be able to always get cash if you're them, at least. Because, okay, Fnatic LDLC are sick on those other maps, but at least if you can always get them a cash, you have a chance. And we've seen here against Fnatic, that is a map you have a chance. So you must get cash in this series. The other option is a player change. The big problem here is, first of all, they're an all Polish team who all speak Polish, so you'd think they'd only want players from their region, and if you saw the recent stand-ins they had, those didn't work out very well. So those players, it seems like that's off the table already. Secondly, the chemistry, it's the way the five interact and play off each other without some design behind it and super conscious elements to it. That's dangerous to mess with by changing players. I understand the frustration of why they've tried to fix things and all this, but never considered the play change, because that might ruin everything. The one maybe possible solution there is, since they're not the super genius tactical team, they're a team who just finds stuff that works, they'll play with it and then play to their best within that the paradigm that they have of those rounds, and sometimes it doesn't work. That's why they don't adapt that much when they do badly, they can't grind. A way you could fix this, maybe, consider not talking in Polish anymore. Consider going to English and get a player from another country. Now, whether that's someone like, let's hypothetically imagine that, say, Guardian didn't want to be in Na'Vi anymore. Maybe Guardian can be in your team. Maybe you can have a player from a Nordic region, since a lot of them will respect Virtus.pro definitely, who isn't in a great team now, but he's maybe a fragger, or he can play an in-game leader role. Whatever it may be, that's a consideration that really should exist for them. I like watching Virtus.pro. They're actually one of my favourites to watch, because when they're on form, when they're in that plough mode, it's just something to behold. And I love teams that intuitively play off each other. In a weird way, in games, I've always felt like the intuitive team play is actually the highest form of team play. It's the aspect where normal team play of communication and having a set role, and this guy knowing when X happens, I do Y, that is all in place because normal people don't have incredible intuitive communication and ability to play off each other. So you have to put that stuff in to sort of artificially create team play so that this guy knows what this guy's going to do. The ultimate level is when you have great players who just play off each other. In an ideal world, that's what you'd have. Now, the problem is when that isn't working, because it's just such a natural thing for you, the guy who has the X equals Y and then Z and then A minus B equals C, the guy who has sort of the formula in place, when he's playing a bit worse, he still has like a guide plan to go to and he knows what his mate's going to do. And so once you fall back from the genius of the intuitive team player, that's when the set team player can actually be better for you, or there's less of a drop away. There's more of a fundamental level of where we're all going to be. So there's pros and cons to each, but you can see how this makes it a problem for Virtus.pro now. So this is a dilemma for Virtus.pro. Do they give up their chemistry and go for a different player? Is there some other combination they can try? Maybe Snacks has to take more of a supportive role and Neo has to be more of a star. Whatever it may be, there's some sort of a dilemma here where on one hand, I like watching them play and I'll always love to see them try and get that play going and have the great semi or the final against someone. But they're not winning that many events. They are winning some events. They're still one of the best teams of the year. They're still up there as a world-class team. But it's got to be frustrating when you're up there 7-8 times in a year and you only win 2.